I'm going to talk a bit about comping in this video, and I want to talk about a couple of things to keep in mind, a couple of, I think, very important things to keep in mind when you're comping. For the purpose of illustration, I'm going to use the tune Autumn Leaves in G minor, so the progression starts on C minor 7th, F 7th, B flat major 7th, E flat major, A half diminished, D7, G minor. Then that repeats. There's a short bridge. The bridge is A minor 7 flat 5, D7th, G minor 7th, C minor 7th, F 7th, B flat major, E flat major, A minor 7 flat 5, D7th, G minor, B flat 7th, E flat major, D7th, G minor. Sounds like a lot of chords, but it's not really that complicated, and a lot of you are probably already familiar with the tune. So I think one of the biggest things to keep in mind when you're comping, again, I mean, I think this is, I don't want to say rule because that's too strong a word, but it's really something that, I think one of the biggest things to keep in mind is this. When the soloist is moving, that's your turn to rest. You're usually resting. You should rest. And when the soloist is resting, that's your turn to move. That's your chance to move. Maybe that's an oversimplification, but it basically means you want to play in the spaces. So if we're talking about Autumn Leaves, the melody is... When I say soloist, it could be a singer singing the tune, just singing the melody of the tune. It could be a trumpet player blowing a solo on the changes, or a trumpet player playing the melody. So the soloist is playing or singing, and there's a space there in the melody, there's a rest, where you're holding out a note. Then the next phrase is... So as an accompanist, a sensitive comper or accompanist, you're going to want to play something in those spaces. So the singer's going to be going, and you play, and the next phrase, that's your chance to move, now there's a space. So you get the idea. So that's one of the biggest things to keep in mind, and I think whether you're listening to a piano player accompany a singer, or a rhythm section accompanying a saxophone player or a trumpet player, that's what they're doing. You know, the drummer, the bass player, the piano player, when there's a space in the music, when the horn player is taking a breath or a rest, you'll hear the drummer play a little something, a little setup, a little rhythmic figure, or the piano player. Sometimes the bass, but usually the bass player is just holding down the rhythm and walking. But more, guitar player, piano player, the comping instruments, and even drums, because drums are comping without notes, really. They're comping rhythmically. You're going to hear them playing little phrases in the spaces. So that's one of the biggest things to keep in mind. Another thing you want to keep in mind is creating a little melody, a melodic line with the comping. So again, we're working with Autumn Leaves, so if the tempo is, say, here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of just playing, which sounds fine, I mean, that's okay too, but you want to think about creating a little melodic line, and it should be satisfying and interesting by itself. So I might play something like this, if it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, there's a melodic line there, and it can stand alone. There's a nice little satisfying melodic line that's happening underneath the solo. It's not really interfering with the solo because it's not that involved, but it's there and it's nice. So I've actually, just to illustrate these two principles that I'm talking about, I sequenced the melody to Autumn Leaves. I've got it in here. Hopefully this will work. And I have it on vibraphone. So you're going to hear the vibraphone playing the melody, and I'm going to comp. As I said, illustrate these things that I'm talking about. So here we go. So yeah, what I was doing was, when there's a rest in the melody, a space, I would play a little rhythmic figure, a chord voicing, and that's the basic idea. So those are a couple things to keep in mind when you're comping. Did you like that, Riley? I don't know if Riley liked it.
Go for a ride in the car? Psych.